UFC lightweight contender Dan Hooker, man, always good to have you on the show. How's life right now, man? I know that there's a lot of cameras following you around.
Yeah, they have been for the last week. I've got ESPN trailing me everywhere I go for the last 3 days, and a couple of days before that, I had the UFC countdown team. So it's a good sign that things are getting close.
Definitely, man. Second straight main event. How does that feel to be a main event back to back? Because most guys don't even make it to the main event once in their career.
Oh, it's pretty surreal. Like I can't, I've always just been a fan of the sport. Like when I got into this, I was UFC wasn't even a possibility to me when I first started MMA. There was no one from New Zealand in the UFC, so I never even connected the dots until I started to see, James Tahuna, Mark Hunt make their debut in the UFC, and I kind of was like, man, it is a possibility for me. Like, oh well, I'll give this a shot, but I have no real chance of matching up with these guys. But then I got in there, competed against them, and I figured it out. These guys are human just like me. If you grab their neck, they go out. If you hit them on the chin, they go out. And so it's given me a lot of confidence through the years.
Yeah, I think a lot of fighters and even fans, they put certain fighters at a certain level on a pedestal, right? For yourself, as you rose up the ranks, like, do you destroy the pedestal in your mind yourself, or is it just like once you get in there and fight them, like you said, they're just humans?
Yeah, well, it can come from the training room, or it can come from real life combat. You start getting in there with guys you watch. Like I remember when I first made my lightweight debut against Ross Pearson in Auckland. Like Ross was a guy that I watched on The Ultimate Fighter, and he was on that show, and he was like, he couldn't be touched on The Ultimate Fighter. And so that was like the first one. Well, actually before that, it was when Hatsu Aoki, when I fought him in Adelaide in the UFC at featherweight, and I was like, man, I'm fighting Hatsu Aoki. I remember people used to talk about him as the number one pound for pound featherweight before a featherweight division in the UFC. They were like, this guy's the best featherweight in the world. So that when I actually got in there and competed against him, not only competed but knocked him out, I was like, whoa, like maybe I don't suck.
Yeah, he was considered the number one contender at that time, I believe, and he didn't take the title fight, which was kind of wild, right?
Yeah, I think he goes down in history as like one of the only guys to be offered a title fight and to having to turn it down. Yeah. Him and Jorge Masvidal, I think, are yeah. very far few between.
Exactly, exclusive club, right? Now, I see that you signed a new deal with the UFC. Congratulations on that. Was it an easy process for you? Right now a lot of people are talking in the media about their contract situations.
Yeah, I think they just seems to be the in-trend negotiation tactic at the moment. But things for myself specifically have always been pretty straightforward with the UFC. My interactions with the UFC, if I feel like I deserve more, I've always asked for it. If I felt like I would deserve more money or the number was a little low, we can have an open discussion. But when it comes to fighting, I'm a very easy person to deal with. There's the reason why they are bringing me over as one of the first international guys to fly to America or to travel. I'm one of the first to bring in, is because I don't muck around. When they call, I answer the call, and I'm ready, and I come to put on a show.
Well, speaking of being one of the first international fighters to fly into the U.S., this fight against Dustin was announced officially 2 weeks out. There must have been some complications. I heard visa issues. How was the last couple of weeks? Were you on the edge of your seat, basically, like maybe this might not happen?
There's two trains of thought, right? There's the train of thought of me in the gym and then outside of the gym. But in the gym, this was going down the whole time, I had this locked in. This was concrete. This is going down because you can't train. This is not a sport that you can train in 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door. You have to be 100% committed or turn the fight down. That's it. That's the simple decision you have to make as a fighter. So, visas up in the air. Can we leave the country? Can we get back in the country? Is it even possible? That, of course, was like a major concern. But when I walk in the gym, all of that gets blocked out of my mind, and I'm just there. I'm just there to train. So I feel confident in how fit I am. I feel confident in my preparation because I've had my foot on the pedal since the UFC reapproached me about this fight.
This fight, is supposed to happen on May 16th. Was there any point throughout that time where you kind of gave up on the thought of fighting Dustin and said, okay, I need to move on and maybe go after another guy?
Bro, that's the crazy thing about this whole fight is that it was scheduled for May 16th. I was in contract negotiations with the UFC. They were a day away from being finalized. Like everything had been agreed to. I was just waiting for my contract to come through. Then the whole COVID-19 situation, the world shuts down. New Zealand goes into level 4 lockdown. We close our borders. The US closed their borders. And the UFC the whole time was still telling me that this fight was going down May 16th. They said, no, it's still on. Keep training. And level 4 lockdown in New Zealand meant that you couldn't interact with anyone outside of your household. So I live with my wife and my 18-month-old daughter. And that's where I did the first week 12 to week 7 of my training camp was locked in my house with them. You weren't allowed to go to the gym, even by yourself. Like I own a gym, an empty gym. I wasn't really even allowed down there. And you weren't even allowed to go further than local. So every running track I could get to was outside of my immediate area. So that was off the cards as well. So it was, like I was saying before, with the mental side of things, and then the reality side of things. In my mind, I was committed. Like I was going for runs and doing push-ups and pull-ups to prepare myself for the Poirier fight. Also, I was playing chicken with the UFC. I would have got on a plane. If they would have sent a plane down here for May 16th, 100% would have got on that plane just to play chicken with the UFC. But it wasn't until a week or a week and a half before May 16th, and the UFC came back to me and they were like, yeah, it's not going to happen. And I was like, thank you for admitting that this wasn't going to happen. But they told me that the fight was still, we could still get the fight done. They came back to me, what are we now? So they came to me 3 weeks ago and said, okay, we've got a new date, still the same opponent. And I was happy to accept it.
During that time, I guess you're just focusing on your cardio and your fitness, keeping your weight down, because you know how to fight. You know what I mean? There's the game planning side of things where you have to work with their coaches, right? So it wasn't that big of a burden, was it? It wasn't, right? During the lockdown?
No, it was funny, to be honest. So after the Felder fight, that was a pretty tough 5 rounds against a pretty tough opponent. And that would have been 11 weeks from that fight till May 16th till I fought Dustin Poirier on that date. And I was telling people, yeah, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm I'm fit, I'm healthy. But I had some issues, man. I had to let my body rest, and I did. We went into lockdown, and I was still obviously could move and could run and could stay fit and stay active. But it took a lot of mental focus to pull myself back into fight camp, to be all right, let's go back to the hard sparring. Let's go back to the hard wrestling, the hard conditioning sessions. So it was kind of refreshing to have a break from that and just work on my strength, work on my fitness, and let my body repair itself and get fitter and stronger. So the first half of this camp has been just focusing on my fitness. Then when we were allowed back in the gym and back to sparring, back to wrestling, all that timing's come back, and all that real time technique has all come back pretty quickly. And so I'm feeling, my body feels better than it would usually feel. Usually we'll do a 12-week camp, no days off for the last 2 months, and by the time you get to the fight, you got a lot of niggles and you're beaten up from sparring and wrestling and all the spider sessions. But my body feels good. I've only been in the grinder, in the trenches for the last 4 weeks. So I feel fit, feel strong, and the timing and game planning is all taken care of, in my opinion.
Do you feel like moving forward with your career, this could maybe be the protocol of future camps, is doing it this way? Or do you like the old way where you're in camp in the trenches for like 8 weeks or so?
I feel like this is a little holiday. I don't think we'll be able to get that past Eugene very quickly. If I go to Eugene and be like, oh, you know what, Euge, I think that I should be doing 4-week camps instead of 8-week camps, he will dog shot me and tell me to get back in the gym. Nah, I like it. Bit of both. This one just feels like a holiday, but right. one off. We'll say it's a one-off.
Now, going back to that Paul Felder fight, it was a 5-round war. You had to perform in front of your home crowd. It was I think you said first time in front of your family. There's a lot of pressure with that, and going for 25 minutes. Is there a lot that you proved to yourself with that fight? Not just getting the win though, but just going through everything.
Just the mix of everything. Like I'm really good at dealing with the pressure and high pressure situations. Like I don't ever get nervous, and I wasn't nervous, but it just took a lot of energy. It just took a lot of what took every ounce of energy I had to keep the train on the tracks. Like there was a lot going into that. We the open workouts, there's like 1,000 people, like friends and family. Like there was a lot to deal with. 2,000 people, again, friends and family at the weigh-ins, then to go into the fight and compete. 10,000 people that at some stage or another I've bumped into in my life. So there was no way I would never live it down if I had lost that fight. So I wouldn't change anything. That went down perfectly.
Now, with City Kickboxing, how long have they been open for?
So we have been back training. So there's like a level system in New Zealand. Mm-hmm. Level 4 was just locked. We were all locked out of the gyms during level 4. When I went to level 3, we were allowed to interact with a group of 10 people. So we got back, and Huge had split the whole gym up, and we were operating at different parts of the gym at different times. In our groups of 10 people, I had Kaiko France. I was in the little people group. I was Kaiko France, Brad Riddell, Shane Young. So we had the lighter guys. That was our group. So that was just good to get back in the gym and spar and get some like real time work done. And that was probably like 4 or 5 weeks ago. But then when it went down to level 2, we resumed training. So we've been back and in full swing in our usual mode for the last 3.5 weeks.
Dustin Poirier, do you feel like he's the most complete fighter you have faced so far in your career?
I'm gonna have to think about that question. He definitely poses a lot of threats. Like I definitely know what I'm getting myself in for. He's a very strong boxer, very strong puncher. Great pace. The guy's a great pace on him. Strong wrestler. And I think the main threat is just his main event experience. Like this will be like his 4th or 5th main event. And I know from going through a main event and going the full 5 rounds how much experience I gained from just that one occasion. So he's gone through it 5 times. I have to that level of experience has to be respected. And I definitely do, but I feel like I have the tools to get a job done against Dustin. I feel like if we match style for style, I feel like I'm a little sharper on the feet.
Now put on your analyst hat, you know what I mean? When you look at his last fight against Khabib, what did you think of that fight and how it ended up?
To be honest, I haven't even watched that fight. Me and Khabib, like I watched it at the time. I obviously watched it at the time, but that's a completely different style matchup for me. Him versus Khabib and me versus Khabib. Me and Khabib have about polar opposite skill sets as you can possibly imagine. So That's not a fight like I would be able to get a lot of confidence from, because I just don't have the same skill set that Khabib does. Like, or our skill set is so different from one another. Am I going to push Dustin Poirier against the fence, take him down and wrestle him? Probably not. Probably not. Probably I'm going to look to strike and pick him apart on the feet, and I don't think that is a secret to anybody.
Dustin, in his last few fights, he's been in some pretty incredible brawls where, you know, he lands, but he gets hit too at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think durability is going to be a major factor in this fight?
I'm interested. Like, that's I'm counting on the full 5 rounds. I'm counting on him being able to take the shots. Definitely, you have to. You can't go in there thinking you're gonna knock someone out of the water and then they don't. That's when you lose. So, but in terms of, you know, Felder would have to be the best person that can take a shot that I've fought in my career. Like, the best poker face. Let's just say the best poker face, because I was hitting with stuff and I was like, I know that hurts. And usually you see like the corner of someone's eye like just tingle or something. They twitch or they sigh or they breathe out like they need some relief. And that's like my cue to take them out. That's like my cue. I was like waiting for that cue, waiting for the one to see where that one's definitely hurt him. Now I'll pick up the pace. Now I'll look to take him out. Felder is an incredible actor. Like he hit that like no one else I've ever competed against. Poirier, from watching his fights, I don't think he has the same poker face. I think when he's hurt, you can see it. I think when he's tired, you can see it. I don't think he hides that very well. And I think I'm one of the best of the world at seeing that, at seeing when someone's hurt and knowing when and where to pull the trigger.
With everything that is on the line in this fight, do you feel like there's a sense of urgency to finish Poirier? You just said that you're ready for 5 rounds, but the finish would probably just put everybody up in arms and be like, Dan Hooker, he's the next guy in line. Is that the type of mentality you're going in with?
That's like, but finishing's just that's how my game is designed. Like when I first walked in the gym, it was to excite and to finish, and that's not something I have to. Whenever I try to do it, it's like whenever you try to knock someone out, you never knock them out because you're looking for it too much. You tense too much, which when you tense, you slows your punches down. I just have to stay loose, stay relaxed, and to be honest, just be myself. Like that's just a natural part of my game. When I'm go out there and I just touch the other guy, they fall over generally most of the time. So it's not something that I have to go out and force. You can never force the finish. Finishes, they just come to you.
All right. Now, looking at the division, right? You got Khabib and Gaethje most likely are going to fight in September or October, sometime around there. And you got Conor McGregor, retired, but he's still floating around. You got Ferguson up there still. For you, are those the only logical options, do you think, after this fight, after you get a win?
You tell me. Of course. That's those are the only options. You get a win there, it's going to be fighting for a title is what I'm going to be pushing for. And I feel like I have the best resume in the division, and it'll be hard for the UFC to push McGregor ahead of me. Ferguson definitely needs to get back on a win, but I feel like I've earned my place in the title picture with a win, especially a finish over a guy like Dustin Poirier. That puts me as the next guy in line for the title shot. I'm not going to go chasing Conor McGregor. I'm not going to go chasing Tony Ferguson. He's coming off a loss. Would I fight them? Of course. But I feel like they're going to have to call me out for once. I'm the guy that's been chasing all of these guys down for a very long time. But this puts me with the shiny little ticket in my pocket, and one of them has to say my name. Someone else has to say my name for once. How about that?
So you're just gonna go radio silent and just wait?
I'll wait. I'll play the waiting game. To be honest, I'm not very good at that. I'm not very good at being quiet. It's not. Patience is probably a virtue that I have no part.
A former opponent Gilbert Burns. You know, he's moved up to welterweight. He's 4-0. Now he's about to fight for the title. Man, how amazing is that, you know, to watch someone like that just make that switch? You know, kind of similar to what you're doing right now.
Good for him. Good for him. You know, we fought. That was nothing but respect, and you know, we wished each other well in each other's careers. Like, there's no hard feelings going back with Gilbert Burns. Like, he's a good guy. He's a very strong fighter, and you know, it was just a good result for me. When you're in this game and you actually know it for what it is, right? We don't put people on a pedestal. Like, I don't put any of those big name guys on a pedestal. I know I can beat any of them in the world. It's the fans that put them on a pedestal. They're like, this guy's undefeatable. This guy wrestles bears and can't be stopped. Like, I know if I grab his neck and squeeze, he's gonna go out. Like, there's no. I don't put anyone on a pedestal. I can be any man walking the face of this earth. It's just the fans that look more at that pedestal stuff. So even when I was like jokingly arguing with like Tyron Woodley, and everyone's like, oh, but he's welterweight, he'd manhandle you, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I've stood next to the guy. Like, he's small. He's a small guy. Like, he's not a big guy. Like, I would fight him in a heartbeat. Like, weight classes it's a thing so they can build divisions and sell tickets and have championships. Like, that's what it's for. But when you're a real fighter and you know what it is and what it's all about, all of these guys are human, in my opinion.
Well, I think a lot of people that say like he's a welterweight, they don't know your resume. If they go back and check their credentials, right? They don't know, right? They better go back and, you know, get some history on Dan Hooker.
yeah. He's game. Let's just say that.
Definitely. Well, man, June 27th, UFC Las Vegas. Man, it's a huge fight. It's gonna be incredible,
huge
man.
Huge crowd.
Watching, no crowd. But hey, I like that aspect of it. I enjoy it right now. Yeah. We should enjoy it while we have it, because it's gonna be gone eventually. Thank you so much, Dan, for the time, and enjoy yourself, man, and be safe with the family.
Yeah, we'll do. Thank you very much. Cheers, brother.